Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NextGen Planners podcast. My name is Amelia Hamilton, and I am the head of community here at NextGen Planners. And in today's show, I am joined by the brilliant Gurdit Singh, co-founder and CEO at Fintegrate. Welcome.
Hi, Amelia.
How are you doing?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Great.
Lovely.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on the podcast.
Of course, yes. Very, very pleased to have you. So to kick things off then, for people to get to know a bit about what you do and what your job role looks like, could you give a bit of a description of what a day in your life looks like?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, the first thing is, no 2 days are the same.
Yeah.
So I do actually wear a couple of different hats. So yes, I am the co-founder of Fintegrate, which is a new tech to the financial advisory industry. I'm also the managing director of Chameleon Financial Planning, which is a financial planning firm in the northwest in Lancashire. So I've got both of those businesses that I'm running, and I'm juggle all of that with a busy family life as well. So I've been married for over 10 years now. Got a couple of kids, 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. So I enjoy, spending time with them as a family, and I'm still doing the school run and taken to the sports club. I've actually got taking Angela to gymnastics later today, and she's got a competition this weekend. So we've got that, so that'll be exciting. So yeah, a lot to manage. There's a lot going on, and I tend to have to manage my time well. And sometimes it means that while the kids are asleep, I might get up a bit earlier, 5 o'clock in the morning, and try and get a couple of hours work done before they wake up, or maybe once they've got off, I've managed to get them off to bed, try and cram in a couple of hours then as well. But I really enjoy it. It's all good fun. So I spend most of my time on Fintegrate. That is the main focus. And interestingly, Chameleon and Fintegrate, are at totally different stages, in terms of their business life. So they do offer me great, great challenges. They're very, very different, and I'm constantly having to find myself having to evolve and adapt to different circumstances, etc. But I'm very lucky in that I've got great people around me, that manage a lot for me, and look after my diary, etc. So I can be very, very efficient. So yeah, with Fintegrate, I could have so much going on in a single day. In the morning, I could start off with speaking to the dev team about some new changes we've got coming in, new feature in Fintegrate, and get really, really into that. And I absolutely love that when we're improving Fintegrate, making it even better. So get stuck into that, and then in the afternoon I could be doing something totally different, like looking at a new marketing campaign with the marketing team, or then interviewing a new person for the sales team. So there's a lot going on. I really, really enjoy it. So yeah.
Yeah, so many hats. I bet your hat stand's pretty full at this point with the amount of different roles you've got going on in your life, from dad to managing all the areas of a new company, as well as an established one.
I've got a really good team at Chameleon in the financial planning business, and the guys there do an incredible job, and that business is taking over really, really nicely. And we've been going about 6 years now. Started with from scratch, and We've got a really nice client bank, and that client bank increases every year. So it allows me to really focus on Fintegrate, and Fintegrate is very different stage. It's startup, really different challenges, and you're always thinking about the tech and there's challenges with the development team, and then around finance, and then growing a team, managing people, etc. So yeah, very, very different. But I've always been like a firm believer in finding that balance with work and home life as well. So I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself, because I'll always find the time to spend with the family, with kids, etc., and make sure I'm always involved in that, and then kind of work around them, to make sure everything's ticking nicely with with Fintegrate, and the financial planning firms, keeps moving forward.
Definitely. And I know you said you've had Chameleon for a few years now, but your kind of lifespan in the financial services industry has been longer than that. And so after establishing yourself kind of in this profession, what then inspired you to move into setting up Fintegrate?
So I've been in financial services since the age of 16. I started off in retail banking. I then qualified as a financial advisor at the age of 21. So I've been advising for a number of years. Just to explain kind of why I moved forward with Fintegrate, probably makes sense to explain why I went into financial services in the first place. I've always been passionate about numbers, data, and from a very young age, and a bit of a geek really when it comes to that. But being from a working class family, you're always worried about money, and there's always kind of that mindset that you're not really entitled to financial advice, and you don't really have that access. And then, as the audience will know, there's a massive advice gap there. And as I got into the industry and started to see more of it in retail banking, and started to understand more about financial servicing and financial planning in particular, I wasn't accepting of that there should be a big advice gap, and I wanted really to be part of that necessary change. And I had based out, is why I went into becoming a financial advisor, and being able to help people that wouldn't normally think that they're entitled to financial advice. And I carried that same mindset into Fintegrate. So when we started Chameleon, like I said, we started from scratch. The business grew very quickly. We had a small team that became much bigger. We were taking on a lot of clients, more staff advisors over time, and we had a firm belief of how we wanted to invest our clients' money, and what our investment proposition would be. And we had this tech stack over here, we had the proposition over here, and this tech stack involved loads of different tech. We were logging in and out of different pieces of tech, and then I thought, this isn't the answer. I want to be able to scale this business, grow this business in a way where it's simple, where I reduce business risk, because in recruiting more advisors, more staff potentially increases risk. You want to make sure everybody's following a process and doing the things they should be, and ultimately the advisor spending more time with clients and less time behind a desk. So for me, we were spending too much time using this tech, and this tech didn't understand our proposition. And then I thought, well, there must be a way where we could get the two to talk to each other, where we could simplify the tech stack, take key elements of the financial planning process, put them into one one system, but underlay all of that with the centralized investment proposition. And that's ultimately where we came up with the idea of Fintegrate. So, Fintegrate is a bespoke product for each firm. So what it does is it has several different pieces of tech kind of built into one system, like from risk profiling, from portfolio analysis, where you can assess annual suitability, from creating recommendations, calculating ongoing effective charges, and creating reports. But all of that is automated using the firm's centralized investment proposition. So when we onboard a new firm at Fintegrate, we'll sit down with that firm to understand exactly what their proposition is. So we'll look at what different investment groups they're using, the different solutions, whether it's DFM providers, MPS model portfolios, in-house portfolios, multi-asset funds as well, what platforms providers they're using, the different charging terms they've got, and we'll take all that information and then feed it into the app, and then the app then learns the proposition, and by doing so it can then automate a lot of the process. So it now means we can, within Fintegrate, within the single system, we can assess a client's risk profile, we can assess their existing portfolio and look at whether it's still suitable or not. If it's not suitable, the system can calculate and work out what changes need to be made. So whether it's a fund switch, whether it's a transfer to a new provider, a different tax wrapper, etc. But it does all of that in line with the firm's investment proposition, all in the same system. It then produces a report at the back end. So typically, from start to finish, when we're doing an annual review, we can have the full case completed in 20 minutes with a report at the back end. And it's a similar process when taking on new clients. You can still do the comparison against what the client's currently got versus what you're recommending in line with your proposition, with a report at the back end. So it's meant, we're saving a huge amount of time. We're able to spend more time with clients. Obviously, ultimately that's saving us money as well. We're increasing revenue because we're spending more time with clients, and I feel more comfortable about managing business risk because I know everybody's following a process and all coming out with consistent outcomes. So that was the aim with Fintegrate from day one, and it's still the aim now.
Yeah, brilliant. And it sounds like you're trying to deliver, as much value as possible and packing a lot of stuff into it. How have you found that process of starting, launching this company? Has there been some unexpected things you've encountered that you thought might be easier, or things that have been harder? What's that been like, that process?
Oh yes, so many challenges, so many hurdles that we just didn't expect. Being in financial services for a long period, I understand that. I know what we want from an advisory point of view, and then the challenges we face as advisors day to day. So that was the easy bit. The hard bit was then being able to transfer all that knowledge and what we wanted over to the development team. So the journey at the start was a lot longer than we initially thought it would be. We did spend a lot of time researching the market, looking at what's currently available. We spoke to a lot of different advisory firms, advisors, paraplanners. From that feedback, we very quickly understood kind of what was required in Fintegrate. So we knew very quickly what we wanted. But the difficulty is then being able to create that, and Fintegrate's evolved so much over the last 2 years. where we were as a product 2 years ago, it was very, very basic to where we are now. We've evolved so much based on the advisor feedback, based on our beta group, etc. But it is really difficult, to bring a technology like this to market. We have no experience in tech. We have, it's a different type of startup. With fintech, we have no experience in that, and the challenges you face in terms of funding that. That has all been a big learning curve. So I look back and think I've learned so much, and if I did it again, which I may do with other ideas, etc., I do it very differently.
Yeah.
So I appreciate every kind of all the challenges we faced, and every time we've kind of failed at something, because I learn from that and then move forward, and I'll always do it better next time. But there has been times where you kind of hit these brick walls and you think, gosh, we're not moving forward here, and what do we do now? Where do we turn, etc. And we just keep slowly taking steps, moving forward, etc. And and it's got easier. And we've got a lot more people around us that have been through that journey, and have got experience in the industry, and we're much better kind of equipped to achieve what we want now. But at the start, it was very different.
Definitely. I mean, it's so interesting because you've transitioned from somebody who was a user of different, tech, and in terms of, specifically in financial planning, and now you've got a front row seat from the inside out instead of being a spectator. From this new perspective that you have you noticed that there's some common misconceptions that people might have about financial technology?
Absolutely. I think a lot of the tech that we've seen in the past, even some of the tech that's around now, has been very much led by developers, by tech savvy founders, etc., that have created great concepts, great products, but actually in reality don't work in the real world, in the day-to-day life of a financial advisory firm. And I think that's the big difference with Fintegrate is we are, like you said, that we are the users. We understand what a day-to-day looks like for a financial advisor, for a paraplanner. We understand the process, the challenges that they go through, and what the outcome needs to look like from a compliance point of view, but also from a client point of view as well. And so we're very differently positioned in that we know what we want the tech to look like. We will always promote ourselves as Fintegrate is founded by financial planners for financial planners. And like I said, we spent a lot of time early doors speaking to advisors. We're doing some heavy market research and understanding really what's needed. And the journey that we've gone through over the last couple of years, where Fintegrate's evolved and become a much bigger product, is all based on feedback. And I think that's kind of our one of our USPs, and the advantage we have is we sit on both sides. So we're able to really kind of understand what the output needs to look like, what the requirements are from a financial advisory point of view.
Definitely. And I guess leading on from that, then understanding what the the challenges are for planners and firms adopting new technology. Is there something that you see as the biggest thing that people have to overcome, or the biggest problem people encounter when trying to adopt kind of new technology?
Yeah. Well, let's face it. People don't like change, do they?
Yeah.
Old habits obviously die hard. But if you look at put tech to one side for a second and look at regulation and how much change we've gone through over the last 5 or 10 years. We've had to constantly evolve our processes. We've had to evolve the way we communicate to our clients. And the amount of work we've had to do with new regulation like MiFID II, with ongoing suitability assessments, and obviously with Consumer Duty now. We've had to constantly evolve and find new ways of working. And I think the bigger the firm you are, the harder it is to implement that change and the new regulation. And really, I think that the key answer to all of that is embracing technology. I think technology is the key to be able to have streamlined process, to be able to take on all this new regulation, the new requirements, and actually turn that on its head into a much better outcome for clients. We've seen a lot of consolidators come to the market, over the last few years. There's more and more consolidators, and if you think, these organizations, whether they're backed by VC money, private equity, etc., are going out there and buying firms, client banks, etc., all the time. And every time you do that, you have a different proposition you take on board, different processes, different CRM system, different tech, etc. And then the ultimate aim for all these consolidators is to increase obviously the value of the business, but do that in a way where you're not increasing the risk as well. So what they're looking at doing is eventually, as they take on these firms, these client banks, is to put them into their own proposition. They're using their tech stack, etc. And being able to do that without technologies is very, very difficult. And then that's where Fintegrate can add significant value. Being a piece of tech that integrates with several other softwares out there, and being a simple and easy process that that allows advisors, power planners to review clients, assess suitability, and move into the propositions that the firms use. Is offering great value. So I think consolidators in particular need to embrace tech. They're very focused on finding ways to integrate vertically, and we definitely believe Fintegrate can help do that.
Yeah. And you touched there upon kind of how much the industry has evolved just in the last decade in so many different ways. So if we're looking, I guess, specifically at the intersection of financial planning and technology, how do you think that will evolve, say, in the next decade? Where do you think we'll be then?
So I think, look, going forward, there's no way really to avoid the introduction of technology in our industry. Like, if you're planning to be around over the next 5 or 10 years, you need to evolve. You need to accept that technology has to play a big part. And with increasing regulatory pressures and the introduction of Consumer Duty, which are all great things and all absolutely necessary. because we need to find better ways of, for example, communicating to our clients, and I think technology can definitely help do this. Just as a example, we've our experience in terms of reporting and then suitability reports is that the reports now and what we've seen in the past have been very much focused on protecting the firm. They've added all the necessary risk warnings, information in there that clients just don't read, don't understand. And if we're being honest, most clients will never read a full suitability report. They won't understand it, ultimately because it's not, appealing to look at and to read. And then I'm hoping Consumer Duty, when it comes in, changes the way we communicate with our clients, and the new reports will be a lot more appealing, a lot more shorter. I feel like the days where we used to have reports that were 15, 20 pages are absolutely gone, and if anything, reports should now be 5 pages, 10 at the absolute max. We should all be aiming to get our client reports to around about five pages. And then the report should be presented in a way which is a lot more appealing to the client, easy for them to understand. So I think to be able to do all of that, you need to be able to have a good process, streamlined process, and all that comes and is obviously backed by technology. So yeah, I think it's going to play a big part.
Yeah, definitely. And talking of technology, as someone who's now a founder of a fintech company, I have to kind of ask this question because AI is a huge topic right now. I feel like you can't get away from hearing about it, or what it could be, or what it is, or what it isn't, or how we're going to use it. So from your point of view, what do you think about AI and its significance and potential danger?
Yeah, you know what? The last 6 months, just seeing what's been happening with Chat GPT and the other softwares that have come out since that, it's just been amazing. I think it's going to play a huge part, within several industries. And it's going to be interesting to see how AI evolves over the next few years. I do believe it's going to be, it's going to evolve really quickly, a lot faster than probably most people expect. I think it's difficult to understand really the dangers of AI just yet, because there is a lot of noise, and then I don't think many people really understand AI, and there's maybe only a small handful of people that understand the full capability. But from a advisory point of view, I don't see a huge amount of danger there, to be honest, because I think clients will be always looking for a personal relationship. Ultimately, when clients employ a financial advisor, their main objective is peace of mind. So they're looking to build a relationship with somebody they trust. And if you look at the last few years, and let's look at the DIY investment sector, which has boomed, up since obviously COVID, and it's grown massively over the last few years. And even with that becoming as big as it is now, we've not seen a reduction in the need for financial advice. There's still a huge advice gap, and clients still need that advice. So I think AI will definitely play its part. I don't see it it replacing financial advisors. I think instead, we have the potential to over time, obviously understand its full capability, and I think we'll see it kind of be leveraged by financial institutions. I think they'll be, with AI, be more equipped really to transform the decision-making process. I think we will also potentially see advice becoming more accurate, more efficient, and us offering better advice, and using AI to manage risk better, find better ways of asset allocation, etc. Where I think it's actually going to play a big part is in the insurance industry, and we've seen this starting to kind of play out in the US, and I think we'll have kind of we'll go through a similar journey here, and I think AI will be a big part of the insurance industry. But as it evolves, it's clear that obviously regulation is an absolute necessity, to make sure we're using it properly. But it's difficult not to be excited about obviously what's happened over the last 6 months in the world. So it'd be good to see how it evolves. I think in terms of the financial services industry, we don't tend to be kind of the industry that does things first, so we tend to kind of step back a bit. Interesting to keep a close eye on it, but I think we need to look at embracing it rather than be afraid of it, look at it as a replacement.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the key word to be attributed to all of this stuff at the moment is just speed. The time that things are being created, being put into action and then adopted is just so quick that if you don't kind of get with the times, then like you said, you will be left behind because it's just going and going and going. As a player in the fintech industry, how do you make sure that you're staying up to date with these latest trends and technologies?
Yeah, that's easy. I'm a tech geek, so I'm always looking at new tech, and obviously within our financial planning process, we're always looking at ways of streamlining the process, working better, etc. So always interested in new tech, but in Fintegrate we are very lucky, because we're talking to advisory firms every single day, to advisors, to paraplanners, and they're always keeping us up to date with other tech that they've seen, with ideas they have, and we'll then take those ideas on and look at how we can then make that work within Fintegrate. But we are heavily integrated with strategic partners, from risk profiling, in investment data, CRM systems. So we are working with some big names within the industry, and we have a very close relationship with those firms. So we're always in regular communication around, what they see as the latest trend, and where they're evolving, and obviously where we're evolving, and how we can work together, to make the integration stronger.
Yeah, as a self-confessed tech geek, then has that always been the case? Were you one of those kids who was really into tech and taking things apart and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, pretty much.
This was always the path that was going to happen. Then finally, you get to really indulge in all of those areas of your inner tech geek.
That's it, and then that's the bit I enjoy the most, is when you get into the development, into putting together the blueprints, as we call them, and what the journey needs to look like within the software, etc. I guess just with alongside all of that, you've got everything else to manage, from sales, marketing, HR, legal, etc., finance. So there's a lot that comes with it, but I really enjoy the time I get to then spend in the actual development in the product itself.
Yeah, I think to me that sounds like the fun bit, to be able to, I'm sure there's elements of enjoyment in all of it, but that must be quite fun to be able to drill down into all those techie parts and work out what's going on and how to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes in my head it's I've worked it out. It's very simple, but I look at it and we've had this many times, so I'll have a new feature mapped out in my head and I'll know what we want it to look like and think, okay, that's straightforward with that. So right, you guys crack on with that, and we'll catch up in a week or two, and it'll be done. It doesn't work like that. It always takes a lot longer than you think, and there's a lot more involved, and etc. But that's why we have a good development team. I come up with the ideas, and then they tell me, well, yeah, it's going to happen, but it's going to take a bit more time.
Yeah, it's just patience, I'm sure.
That's it.
It's the skill. It's a one to practice.
Yeah.
So with the rise of fintech startups, what do you think kind of the future of traditional banking institutions looks like now? Do you think it's on a different trajectory?
Yeah, it's changed so much. So I started in retail banking. So I actually worked in a branch, and so I've seen it from kind of what it looked like then, many years ago, to what it looks like now. And if you think, well, who actually goes into a bank nowadays? I can't remember the last time I went into a bank, and I think because of the pandemic, the last few years we've seen banking tech evolve so much, and with what's it called, open banking. I think open banking's been a massive positive for the banking world. There's a part of me kind of starting off with that retail banking world thinks, well, there's a lot of people there probably lost jobs. We've reduced the amount of jobs in branches, but then ultimately, if you look at how many jobs we will have created, by embracing technology, evolving the online platforms, the apps, etc. We will have created a significant amount of jobs in tech. So I think the banking world is definitely ahead of us in terms of the financial advisory world, but it's changing all the time, and it's great to see that change.
Yeah, definitely. And so I've got two more questions for you. And the first of which is, it's not on the topic of fintech, although it can be if you want it to be. We like to ask our guests for a book that has helped them in their career so far. So it could be a book about fintech if you want it to be. It doesn't have to be. Do you have a book that has had an impact on your?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So definitely a book that I've read a number of times. But just before I tell you about that book, so I've never been a massive reader of books. I've always been more fascinated with numbers, etc. Partly because I've always struggled to find the time, to just kind of sit there and dedicate time to read a book. So what I did a few years ago, I spend a lot of time traveling. I'm up and down the country, so I'm in the car a lot. So I discovered Audible a few years back, and it was an absolute game changer. So any time now I'm in the car, I'm always listening to a book, and the number of books I must have listened to over the last few years, there's just so many. So if anybody would like to start reading books or is struggling just to find the time and does a lot of car journeys, honestly, Audible, absolute game changer. I'd definitely look into that. I've absolutely loved it. So no, just going back to the book then. So the book I've read a few times and it's really, really helped me is Think and Grow Rich. So it's a book written by Napoleon Hill. And basically it was inspired by Andrew Carnegie. So he tasked Napoleon Hill to go on speak to successful individuals in the US, and he must have spoken to hundreds of individuals and go and find out what made them successful. What was the formula for their success. And the book doesn't give you that secret formula. There is no secret formula to huge amounts of wealth, etc. But what it does instead is it looks at kind of the mindset of these successful individuals, and looks at kind of what they did, how they behaved, and what was apparent within the book is that each of these successful individuals had a definite goal in life. They all knew what they wanted to do. So it talks about, the experiences, and in particular, there's kind of 13 different chapters that all talk about different, different steps that they've taken. So it's a great book. If anybody who's interested in, furthering their goals in life, pick it up, have a read, use Audible.
Yeah.
I found it truly inspirational and motivational, and it's one of those actually where you can read it as many times as you want, and every time I've read it, I've kind of found something new, or thought about things differently. So it's something that I keep with me and will always refer back to at regular points.
Yeah, and I must say I have to agree with you about the audiobook hype. I've transitioned onto, and now going to bed, I prefer to listen to something. You just got to make sure you set a sleep timer, because otherwise you wake up the next morning, it's still going, and
I know.
How many chapters in? You have to try and scroll back to the last bit that you can remember. But no, that sounds like a great book. So, final question for you. That is, what are you most excited to see in the world of finance in the next 10 years?
Well, obviously, Fintegrate playing a big part within our industry, and it's getting bigger every single day, and the adoption's improving every single day. We've got new users. So very excited about where Fintegrate is today, but also where it's going to be tomorrow, and what else we've got, coming, and the new features, etc., that we're going to add into the product. But ultimately, in the world of finance, the adoption of technology in our industry is going to be really exciting. I think we've got a lot to come. There's going to be a lot of change. If you look at the impact technology's made in the banking industry, with open banking and credit rating agencies and DIY investments, etc., I think we're going to then see that same impact over the next 10 years. And I think providers, platforms, etc., need to change. The ones with legacy tech that haven't evolved, I think they're in danger of becoming the past, and the new providers that embrace tech integration, etc., are going to be the future leaders. And we've seen many new pieces of tech, in particular platforms, come to the market over the last few years, and the adoption's increasing all the time. The other thing that's really don't know what part it's going to play just yet, what is going to be interesting to kind of watch is things like digital currencies, blockchain technology. It's very early days, but it'll be interesting to see how that kind of if and how it becomes part of the world of finance. It's something that definitely needs to be regulated, and because it's very, very volatile and all a bit unknown at the moment, but it does have potential to be part of our industry. And obviously we touched on AI. We need to look at embracing AI and look at how that can help us deliver a better service to our clients, streamline our processes, reduce our business risk. So it'll be interesting to see that. And I think from the investment point of view, we're seeing a lot more uptake. I'm talking to advisors all the time, and looking at their propositions, and the amount of interest that we're seeing in socially responsible investing is increased massively. And I think that's something that firms need to be focused on, or at least ensuring it's built into their proposition, because clients are asking more about this. They're more interested in taking an ethical approach, etc. So I think that's going to play a bigger part as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, isn't it? And that's what's exciting, is that there's so many different areas that are changing and moving, and making sure that we're keeping up with what people want and where things are moving, but where they should move. I think it's a really exciting time to be in the industry.
Yeah. I think as well, I think one of the most successful kind of changes you could make as a scaling business, as a business that's looking to, an advisory firm that's looking to grow and take on more advisors, whether it's through just organic growth or you're buying client banks, etc., is using vertical integration. If you think about the process, you've got onboarding, you've got your CRM system, you've got your cash flow modeling, obviously the research and the analysis you go through, then creating your recommendations, and then obviously you're implementing those recommendations onto a platform normally, etc. And then you've got your client portal. So there's several different parts to the process, and the conversations we're having now, we're seeing more and more firms starting to think about vertical integration, about making sure that all those different parts are talking to each other. So the transition from one step to the next is seamless, and it's easy to flow through the process. So I think that is a big kind of key to success for firms that are looking to grow, and scale.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is a brilliant point to end on. So I'll say thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks again, Amelia. Really appreciate the opportunity to chat today. So yeah, thank you very much.
It's been brilliant. Thank you for your time. So that was Gurdit Singh on the NextGen Planners podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please share it on all social media platforms. You can listen to past and future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and on our website, which is nextgenplanners.co.uk. On our website, you can also find loads more information about our fantastic community. And finally, if you can, do leave us a review. It helps to grow the podcast so we can get it out to even more people. Thank you for listening.